Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for the latest edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cook. On this week's show, Back to School in the Strait Region. We'll talk to a representative from the Strait Regional Centre for Education about the different phases of back-to-school plans for students, teachers, and other staff. We'll also have the first of our Cape Breton-Canso federal election candidate interviews as Becky Bourinot sits down with Mike Kelloway. But we begin right here in Little Harbour. I just mentioned Mike Kelloway, the Liberal candidate for Cape Breton-Canso, a couple of moments ago. He plays a role in this story in eastern Richmond County. You see, residents of this community want to see a cleanup happening for a tidal pool that's just on the other side of this berm here in Little Harbour, not far from the Lobsters R Us processing facility. However, they feel that they haven't gotten a satisfactory answer from any elected officials, including the Liberal MP running for re-election, and they'd like to see some action on it very quickly. So here is how that story has unfolded over the last few years, courtesy of a couple of local residents who are tired of inaction on the tidal pool and want to see it cleaned up. From a distance, this pond in the community of Little Harbour near Lower Lordways may look innocent enough, but for local residents like Teresa Clemens, and for summer visitors like Marnie Hoover, who's been coming here for the past 14 years, it's not quite the same as they remember it.
As a young child, this was a full pond. Wintertime was our skating pond. Summertime, it wasn't unusual for my brother, who'd come from Halifax, to borrow a little skiff, and he'd get out into the middle of the pond and sit there all day fishing. Wasn't a lot of fish in it at the time, but you could fish. There was muskrat. There were all kinds of ducks with their families that were here all year long. And that was like for the longest while.
But change has come to this little community in eastern Richmond County, much of it to accommodate a growing lobster industry and lobster processing facility nearby. A new breakwater was set up in Little Harbour in 2004, and 4 years later, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans authorized the construction of an organic berm that was designed to control outflow issues between the Atlantic Ocean and the Little Harbour Pond.
The outflow from the pond to the ocean had to be changed because it needed to come on the other side.
However, both local residents and visitors noticed a change in the environment of the pond in the years following the installation of the berm in 2008. Marnie Hoover started coming to this area around that same time. From her property just above the mouth of the Little Harbour Pond, she can easily see and smell the difference.
Well, we came here because it was a wonderful little harbor and a close-knit community, and everybody was wonderful and helpful and friendly, and it was just a wonderful little area with the pond here. You weren't right on the ocean, so you were protected in storms. And now with it the way it is, it's unbearable inside our home. We're like, I don't know, 200 feet, 300 feet from the pond, and there are days we can't open the windows, and it's stifling hot, and we don't have air conditioning, so it makes it really unbearable. And it's 24/7. It's whenever there's low tide. Now, there are some fumes that come off during high tide depending on the wind, but when it's low tide, twice a day, it is unbearable.
It was a slow process. When you live in an area and things are happening and you're there all the time, you don't notice the change as much. But gradually you began to notice things like, well, the waterfowl are not there as much as they used to. The birds with their families were not there anymore. You didn't see that muskrat anymore. You couldn't take a skiff out into the pond anymore, but that's been for quite a while. And then sometimes my husband and I walk a lot. We'd often walk to the wharf and we'd say, oh my God, what a smell today, and then still not think anything about it. But then, boom, all of a sudden, holy cow, this is ridiculous, it's definitely unbearable. And that's where we are now. This last few weeks have been really horrible because it's been so hot and so humid, and a little wind off of the ocean just kind of waves it right up to you. I'm up on the hill up there now, and we still smell it from up there, and we can't sit out front when that's going on. We have to go in behind the house, and it's bearable, but it's still there. It just never goes away.
Despite its small size, Little Harbour gets a lot of visitors and a lot of vehicle traffic. The nearby Lobsters R Us seafood processing facility sells cooked and pre-cooked lobsters to hungry visitors and locals alike. During non-pandemic times, this same facility hosts a Celtic Colours community event every October. And apart from being busy during lobster season, in the summertime, the Little Harbour breakwater is busy on two occasions. During the Lordways Acadian Festival, when the breakwater and its fishermen partner with the nearby Chapel Cove Harbour Authority for the Blessing of the Fleet ceremonies that begin in Little Harbour and wrap up in Chapel Cove. And just recently, Harbor Wars, a series of challenges taken on the waters of the Atlantic Ocean by fishermen from Chapel Cove and Little Harbour, was a major fundraiser for cancer research and for those who are struggling with the disease. But to the likes of Teresa Clements and Marty Hoover, the frustration is there because everybody who comes to any of these events always has the same reaction.
Everyone that comes by has the same kind of comments, like, how do you live here with the smell? It's just horrible. And people will want to come here to those activities. The worse this gets. It's so that's our concern too, is for tourism here for the little community.
By 2019, Hoover, Clements, and their Little Harbour neighbors had enough. They went door to door, mobilizing community residents, and then, armed with their support, contacted several levels of government, including municipal, provincial, and federal. They went several months without getting a response before finally getting some action from the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans.
We did get a response from DFO, from Paul Gentile, and his co-worker in Small Craft Harbors, Brenda Alexander, and they came, hired a group of engineers to come down, and they did a study of the pond and drew up plans, 3 different plans of how they feel that it could be fixed or remediated and taking care of the seaweed and stuff that's left. They picked one that they thought was the best, and it was the amount was $191,000 at that time to do the work. Now, at that point, DFO said, we can't fund this. So they suggested we try different levels of government to try and get funding from someone else. But they had approved the plan, just they couldn't fund it. They didn't have the money in their budget to do it.
Undaunted, Hoover, Clements, and their neighbors took their concerns to Liberal MP for Cape Breton-Canso, Mike Kelloway, in a conversation that seemed to get off on the right foot.
He stood here one day and told us that he would stand by us through this whole thing and ensure that we got the funding for the remediation of the pond. He said that there was probably about 10 of us here that day, so there's lots of witnesses. And he said that they may not be able to get it all from one department in the government, but there were other avenues.
However, when the latest federal budget was approved in June, there was disappointment for Little Harbour residents.
We did not hear back from Mike Kelloway at all. We've heard no more from him. Nothing to either of us directly about his statement that he was going to coordinate the funding and work with other departments for us. It's just, he's like he disappeared.
Here at Telile 24/7, we reached out to Mike Kelloway, now running for re-election as a Liberal candidate for Cape Breton-Canso, to give some clarification on exactly what he pledged and what has come from those pledges in terms of cleaning up the Little Harbour tidal pond.
What I was looking to see was what items might be available in the new budget around providing some remediation to fix the problem, but also then repurpose that area for whatever the municipality would be looking at in terms of, whether it be a park or whatever the case may be, a tourist attraction and whatnot. So what I've been doing is working with the municipality directly and looking at ways that we can be inventive to find some funds, because there wasn't a direct fund on the remediation of tidal ponds in the budget. There were Small Craft Harbour funding and a plethora of other type of funding announcements. But I've been around long enough to know that you need to build coalitions to get funding sometimes. And so working with the councillor of the area, Brent Sampson, and Amanda Mummerked, I think we have a pathway to a solution utilizing some funding that, if approved by the municipality, will get us to a better place than we are now. But there's no mistaking it. It's unacceptable. The aroma is intense at times, and folks have to live there and experience that. No one should. So, I think in a different time, certainly COVID kind of prevented us from kind of doing a much deeper dive on it. But it is a top tier issue for me, top tier issue for the community. And if those folks know that I'm pretty inventive and pretty focused on getting that job done.
Speaking to Telile 24/7 early on Thursday afternoon, Kelloway also disputed a rumor that's been floating around the community that Ottawa has secured $40,000 in the recent budget to be able to get the tidal pool cleanup work going, and he also insisted that he has been in contact with Marty Hoover over the whole situation.
Marty did send a letter to the editor, and then she sent it to me, and I followed up to say thank you for sending it. We're continuing to work our angles and trying to get things done. And I think those folks know firsthand of the work I'm doing, and it's not laying on a desk somewhere. It's not how I roll. I'm a community developer, and sometimes things take longer than you wish. But always available to talk to Marty and folks there, and they know that. And I've talked to other people as part of the committee or group, other folks that live there. And my number is always available for them to call, and I know that likewise for them.
However the cleanup takes place and whichever level of government is providing the funding, Kelloway agrees with Hoover and Clements that action needs to be taken and has to happen soon.
I've been on the case now probably about a year, trying to find the right mechanisms by which to fund the progress, but I think we have some fertile ground to play with, but I'll need to work on it more, and that community knows, the community of Little Harbour knows where my work ethic and commitment lies, and I wish it could be sooner. God knows I wish it would be sooner, and I'm making every effort to try to fix it.
In the meantime, Hoover and Clements are continuing to reach out to other public officials, including recently elected Richmond MLA Trevor Boudreau and the Conservative candidate for Cape Breton-Canso, Fiona McLeod.
But you had the same kind of ideas that Mike Kelloway had, that it probably will have to be funded through various different ministries because of the cost of $191,000. She also questioned the money that has been set aside for the harbor to have the wharf repairs done was something like $1.5 or $2 million, and she asked us if we knew if any of that money was supposed to go to the pond, and we said we had heard nothing about it coming towards the pond. So she said that would be something that she would definitely look into if she was elected, that she feels that maybe some of that funding could come this way for the pond while they're here, while the equipment's here, while the stone is here and the cement guys or whatever else needs to be done.
It's almost as if it's a hopeless case because no one really wants to help us with this. It's all, okay, yeah, we'll do what we can, but do what we can means absolutely nothing unless you're actually doing something.
Now, one thing Hoover and Clements want to make clear as they seek to get the tidal pond cleaned up in Little Harbour is that they don't hold the local seafood processing facility, Lobsters R Us, responsible for what happened to the Little Harbour pond after the berm was put in 2016. As well, they're not expecting the company to put forth any of the funds required to clean up the tidal pond. That responsibility will be falling to the federal government if Hoover and Clements have their way.
This is a federal government problem, not a Lobsters R Us problem, or not a Little Harbour or provincial. But so it has to, I would say, come from the federal government and let it trickle down to the other agencies that can also put in their money or their 2 cents or their whatever it is to give us a hand at doing something with this. We're not working to put blame on anyone. We're 100% in favor of Lobsters R Us and all the people who are behind it. It's a good thing. It's an excellent thing for the community, and we don't want anyone to go thinking that we're against that. We are not. We want this mess fixed up for our health and for the benefit of our community. That's where we're at right now.
So for the time being, the aroma and the frustration will continue for residents of Little Harbour. Marty Hoover says that she's surprised, given her positive impression of Cape Breton, that its elected officials might treat this issue the way it's been treated over the past few years. And in the end, she and Teresa Clements feel there's only one way for action to happen.
Yeah, I think they need to send someone here to come and see this pond.
And smell it.
And smell it, yeah.
In Little Harbour, for Telile 24/7, I'm Adam Cook. East Richmond Education Centre is one of a number of schools across the Strait region that's preparing for reopening this week. However, reopening looks a little different than it did last school year, which looked very different from the previous school year before the COVID-19 pandemic. However, there is a sunnier, more optimistic outlook for the Strait Regional Centre for Education and its staff as they get ready to welcome back something that looks a little closer to normal for students, teachers, families, and everybody connected to local schools. To help explain all of this, and to help explain the stages of masking for students and teachers at these schools, I spoke to the Regional Executive Director for Education for the Strait Regional Centre for Education, Paul Landry. Here's that interview conducted via Zoom at his office in Port Hawkesbury right now. For everybody involved in education across the Strait region, obviously, Antigonish, Guysborough, Inverness, and Richmond, what's the mood like for you? Because I know you have had meetings now with the principals, with the various union local representatives, teachers, bus drivers, etc. So what's the feeling like for all of you as you folks get ready for this very different school year to begin?
Well, as always, Adam, we're really looking forward to our staff. Some of our staff are returning this week. Some of our pre-primary programs begin on Thursday and Friday. So our pre-primary children come in on Thursday and Friday. So and I've been going around to a number of our schools and our pre-primary programs. They're very excited and very well prepared to receive students on Thursday and Friday. And then our staffs come in on our teaching staffs and support staffs come in on Thursday and Friday to prepare for our students in grades primary to 12 coming back on Tuesday. And as always, we really look forward to our staffs, our full complement of staffs coming back, and of course our students for a new school year. We're always really excited to see them come back. And as you said, we have had some meetings, in preparation for the startup of this school year and sort of where things are going, as we enter the fall, and the mood has been very, very positive. I think everyone's really excited where we're at provincially, and hopefully we continue along that path so we can get to phase 5 and hopefully things will return to a little bit of quote unquote normal for us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the back to school plan that is beginning before the scheduled beginning of phase 5 on September the 15th. Of course, that contingent on Nova Scotia hitting its 75% double vaccination targets. But part of the back to school plan is broken down into two parts, one that gets going immediately, and then there's a shift after the projected reopening in phase 5 of September 15th, that involving masks. And I wonder if we could stay there for just a bit, Paula. Can you give us a sense on what are the requirements for students and teachers both before and after we reach phase 5?
Sure, Adam. So really we always want to make sure that our students and our staffs are in a safe learning environment. So we'll continue to ensure that's taking place. And of course, there will be core public health measures that will be in place when our students and staff return to school. And of course, one of the biggest pieces around that is that everyone has full vaccination upon return. And then we'll continue with similar protocols that our students and staff saw last year, which is frequent hand washing, frequent cleaning of high touch surfaces. A big piece of that, which really everyone did a fabulous job of last year, was staying home if you're sick, or keeping your children home if they're feeling unwell. And as you touched on in your introduction there, that we'll be wearing masks inside schools and on school buses to start the school year, but we'll transition away from that, from mandatory masking once the province reaches phase 5 in its reopening plan.
Now, one thing that I was curious about in that regard, Paul, in looking at the back to school plan, is that one of the things that's being offered after September 15th, if that's when phase 5 kicks in, is that students and teachers that still wish to wear masks within the school buildings will be provided with the adequate support to be able to continue doing that. So if there's still some kids or still some teachers that want to do that, or other school staff, they can. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how they're going to be accommodated?
Yeah, that's certainly going to be part of the transition, and we want our students and staff to feel comfortable if they choose to wear a mask after the phase 5 reopening. So that there will be an education piece with that, Adam. That for those students who want to wear a mask, that that's okay, and that's their choice, and we want all of our staff and our support, our classrooms and students to support those choices. And really, it'll be an education piece to say that that's okay, and we need to kind of support people who choose to do that.
What can you tell me about keeping the schools clean and safe going forward here? I do understand that there are a couple of provisions in the back of the school plan that talk about not only having support for people who do experience issues connected to COVID-19, not necessarily an exposure, but as well, there's a deep cleaning process that's going to be ongoing with the school buildings. Can you tell us a little bit about those aspects of the back to school plan?
Right. So we clean our schools very well every day, as usual. Really, we have a list that we work through, and in our schools. I just finished. I'm almost finished my tour across the region. Prior to schools opening, I visit all of our schools to ensure that they're ready for opening and clean and well organized. And I can say that all the schools that I've visited to date so far are very well prepared, very clean, very welcoming, and getting ready for opening on later this week. But we will continue with those measures in place, and as always, we reevaluate that all the time. If there's things that may come up for whatever reason, we make adjustments to support that. But as you noted as well, we will continue with the cleaning of high touch surfaces throughout the day, and that'll look different in different schools. We'll have some staff going around doing that. We also, students have been great along the way to clean up after themselves and those types of things, that they learned, I guess, a little more last year. So those types of things will certainly continue going forward.
Paul, we've been talking for the last couple of minutes about measures that are in place to guide us from phase 4 into phase 5, the idea of learning to live with COVID-19. But by the same token, on the flip side of that coin, there's going to be a bit of a return, not just once phase 5 is reached, but in the first few weeks as well, to what we might have seen normally in a typical school year. And I just wonder, can you speak to that a little bit? We're starting to see extracurricular activities come back. We're starting to see more normal operation of classrooms and of the facilities in general. So can you talk a little bit about what the student and teacher experience is going to be like over these next few weeks as we get ready for the school year to begin?
Sure, Adam. So as you said, this school year is going to look a little more familiar, our school routines. This year we won't be having cohorts. So that'll look quite different within schools. As well, we'll have a full return to music programs, band programs. Students will be able to once again go on field trips and participate in various clubs that are in our schools. So say, for example, there's computer clubs, there's drama clubs, and sort of a longer list around that. But also all of our school sports will return, and our gyms will be open in the evenings and weekends to community members and community groups. As well, our students will once again be able to use or fully use cafeterias, as well as able to use their lockers, which I know they're all looking forward to. As well, parents who follow public health measures will be able to visit school as well. So it's a return to more familiar routines that we're really looking forward to, and I'm sure students and community members are looking forward to it as well. So we're quite excited about that and quite happy that we're able to proceed that way.
You mentioned parents being able to come in, and I wanted to pick up on that point as well, Paul, because one of the big issues with trying to follow the pandemic rules over the last year and a half has been that individual community members and community groups have not necessarily been able to come in as per usual and have had to really be careful in terms of scheduling their visits. They've had to be careful in terms of being able to use various functions of the school building outside of specific school use. So, can you tell me a little bit about what is changing there and what members of the general public and those that want to schedule such things as, for example, a volleyball tournament in a school gymnasium, what can they expect going forward as we head into September?
I think it'll be a slow return, Adam, just sort of starting off that we get our school sports up and going, and it'll be very familiar to many people who were able to access buildings. So we'll still be keeping track of, as I mentioned before, sort of those core public health pieces, which would be signing in and signing out, so that we have names if something comes up and we need to do contact tracing or those types of things. So those pieces will remain in place. I think as we move through September and we see what sort of phase 5 looks like, and then we'll probably look at, can we host tournaments and those types of things. But it'll be a little more of a gradual return to normal, I think, throughout September, and it'll be a very measured and sort of cautious approach. And then as hopefully as the province continues to do very well with its vaccination rates and so on, and case counts and so on, that we'll be able to sort of move back to even a little more normal, like you say, and look at larger gatherings and that type of thing in buildings.
We'll hope for the best there. Paul, of course, the Strait region has had its difficulties during this pandemic. It was particularly difficult during the third wave back in the spring when exposures started to occur at the Sarek High School site in Port Hawkesbury. I know you and your colleagues went into action quickly on that. What do you think can be done with this back to school plan if the fourth wave that we're kind of looking over our shoulder at right now, if it does indeed settle in and we do start seeing exposures at schools again? Is the plan designed that there can be quick action by you and your colleagues should there be another outbreak at a local school?
Absolutely, Adam. And as I said earlier as well, that's why we really want to encourage all of our folks who are eligible to get their full vaccination completed prior to school returning. And I know we've sent a couple of letters home on behalf of Dr. Strang in the last couple of weeks, really encouraging all those who are eligible to get vaccinated to make appointments and please get them done prior to school returning. As you mentioned, if something does come up, if we do have some issues that arise, as always, we continue to take our advice from public health on that, and which means that we'll need to be flexible and adapt our safety measures as they monitor the number of cases in our region. But we have our processes in place, as you said, and we'll continue with those. So it just requires a little more flexibility, and our school administrators have tremendous support as well from public health. That if we do have a case that arises, they provide tremendous support to our staff and as to the region as well. So it's really a great team effort, and then all of that information gets communicated out to students and families and staff and so on. So we're pretty confident, Adam, with that process, and if, like you say, if something were to happen in a community or even the province, we can adjust to those measures quite quickly. And as we noted last year, and you noted in the spring, we had a little bit of a shutdown there period in May, And we spent a lot of time on professional development on being able to switch to at-home learning quite quickly. Where we purchased a number of technology devices and so on. So we will be reviewing that again this year as part of our planning going into this year. We will be getting ready to switch to at-home learning if need be. So that'll be one of the tools in the toolbox that we'll have ready to go. So we feel quite confident that we'll be able to manage quite well throughout the school year.
Well, just to finish on that note, Paul, nobody can predict the future, obviously. We've learned that again and again over the last year and a half. But do you get a sense, you've been in public education for many years. You served as an administrator for the previous Strait Regional School Board before starting your work here with the new Center of Education. Do you get a sense that there has been a real growth, both personal, emotional, and in terms of an organizational structure with the school board, but also with the individual schools, the teachers, and the students themselves, that's going to serve you all well as you go forward into this new year? Do you feel that lessons learned and experiences shared like this through the pandemic are going to help the future of public education here in the Strait Region?
Absolutely, Adam. One of the big pieces that we learned throughout the pandemic and as a region and an organization was just how supportive our staff and our students and our communities are of public education in Nova Scotia and particularly in the Strait region. It's really been a team effort with our community partners and health and really all of them that have come together and supported students and helped us get through really successfully and positively through a very difficult time. And there's just so many great things on that list that our community partners have worked with us through through school food programs and supporting students who needed technology and all kinds. It's just a long list, Adam, of really positive things. So I think there has been, back to your question, I think there has been tremendous growth and leadership and at really all levels. Students have stepped up, staff have been, incredible, and our families have just been so supportive of everything we've tried to do and to get through, with their own families and supporting us. So it's something that we're just so grateful for. But it's been, it's really been a key to our success as we managed our way through the pandemic, and as we will continue to manage our way going into this year. As you said, we're all very hopeful things will go really well this upcoming school year, but we know we think we have some great processes and plans in place if we need to make adjustments along the way.
All right. Well, we'll certainly hope for the best in that regard. But in the meantime, Paul, Andrea, I know it's a busy time for you and for all your colleagues. We really appreciate you giving us a breakdown of all of this on Telile 24/7 today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam. Take care.
All right, you too. Paul Landry is the Regional Executive Director of Education for the Strait Regional Center for Education. We've been speaking to him at his office in Port Hawkesbury via Zoom. Stay tuned for more Telile 24/7 in just a moment. And now it's time for the first of our federal election candidate interviews for the riding of Cape Breton-Canso. We begin with the Liberal candidate, Mike Kelloway. He was first elected in 2019, taking the reins from longtime Liberal MP Roger Cusner. Since that time, Kelloway has been appointed to the House of Commons Standing Committees on Health and Justice, and he has worked in many areas around the riding and worked virtually for much of that time during the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's begin our candidate interviews by asking my good friend at Telile Community Television, Becky Bourinot, to sit down with Mike Kelloway.
Hello, everybody. I'm here with Mike Kelloway himself. So, Mike, we're into a new election.
Absolutely.
Why should we elect you, Mike?
Well, first of all, Becky, it's always great to be with you and the folks here on Telile and all the viewers. One of the things that I've been focused on over the past 2 years and wanting to demonstrate on a daily basis is someone who has an immense work ethic that follows up, that is in the foxhole with individuals, communities, municipalities, First Nations, Acadian communities, people in vulnerable positions, that I'm focused on working for them with them and getting results. And I look at things such as healthcare, and I look at things such as affordable housing and the environment and other items that are important to people in Cape Breton-Canso. And I've worked hand in glove. Look, I'm a community guy. I've always been a community guy. And I've always worked closely with all levels of government. I'm not someone that is just out there to be someone. I'm someone that's out there to do things with people that are going to make things better for the community. And over the past 2 years, whether it was through COVID and all the measures that were put forward to help Canadians, whether it was coming up with an idea, and our riding came up with this idea of a fund for community organizations, not-for-profits, that could tap into funds because they couldn't fundraise during COVID. That came from Cape Breton-Canso. That came from people in my riding that I brought to caucus, and we started to run with it. And just recently, we announced the funding mechanism by which community organizations can apply. We can make great things happen, not only in our riding, but also for the country. And for me, it's about work ethic, it's about results, it's about engaging, it's about listening. Does Mike Kelloway get everything right? No, he doesn't. But what I do is listen, work together to bring people together, and act. And that's what we've done over the past 2 years. But there's so much more work that needs to be done. We talked about healthcare. Now, healthcare, I was really pleased to see an announcement yesterday by the Prime Minister, who came out with an announcement that we're going to focus on funding 7,500 new doctors and nurse practitioners across the country. My math was never the best, but I think that's around 620, 630 potential positions, doctor positions and nurse practitioner positions in Nova Scotia. Monumental, important. Affordable housing, I can say to the folks out there that are watching that over the past 2 years, I've worked with all municipalities, and some are very close to having options for affordable and accessible housing. And it's not because Mike Kelloway did it alone. That's not how I work. I work with the community. So municipalities, we have 5 of them. I can't say which ones are on the cusp of some good things, but I can tell you that there are many projects waiting to happen on affordable and accessible housing. One of the things that we need to really look at, though, is the whole concept of poverty. And a lot of times, we want a magic bullet to solve poverty. My approach to it is this. We need to look at it as spokes on a wheel. And each spoke is a way to get to a path to reduce poverty. So, for example, I've worked with about 20 companies that are either here right now or looking to locate in Cape Breton-Canso. Companies that, in some cases, emerge from people who are living here or people that want to come to live here. Pretty substantial. On the environment, look, I'm looking at wind energy, offshore wind. I'm looking at hydro with a lot of different interested parties, including our strong municipalities, including the provincial government. This is an activist MP. This is an MP that keeps in my jacket pocket a list of the projects every day that I need to review, the people that I need to call back. And one of the things I'd like to illustrate is that during COVID, we were receiving about 200 calls a day. And that's just calls, not emails, not tweets, not Facebook. That's just only calls. I mean, you're looking at about 500 pieces of correspondence a day. And we do everything we can to get back to people. That is so important to me. And I think one of the signatures of a Mike Kelloway office is we get back to people and we take our swings for our constituents. We work with the groups in our communities. This is not just about cutting a ribbon. Anybody can cut a ribbon. I want to be in the foxhole at the beginning stages of finding a solution to problems, finding opportunities that we need to accentuate. That's what I'm about. And I think a lot of people, what you see on this interview is what you get. We have been active in rural communities. We've been active in the urban centers. I've always believed that politics is about the art of engagement and the art of acting in the service of others. I don't look at this as anything but service to my community. The community of Cape Breton-Canso has given me so much. I come from a coal mining family. I come from a fisher family. I always was told, never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. And always give back. So for me, this is a passion. This is a service that when I'm in Ottawa, I have one thing on my mind, Cape Breton-Canso. When I'm in the community, I have one thing on my mind, Cape Breton-Canso. And I like to think over the last 2 years, people have seen the work ethic. People have seen close to $300 million in investments in 2 years. People have seen that if we can't do something, we're honest about it, but we take our swings to get there and hopefully have a successful outcome. Sometimes we don't, and that bothers me. One of the things that I'd like to do better, but it's in my nature, is that I don't like to lose. What I mean by that, not personally, when I have a file, I want to make sure we get the best outcome for individuals. Most times we do, sometimes we don't. And that tends to bother me a bit. But I think that for your viewers, that should give a glimpse into who I am. I'm a community person.
So what are you the most proud of that you accomplished in the last few years?
In the past couple of years, honestly, it's been around the COVID responses. Because our office, and I've said this in interviews with you, our office played a real huge role in the community revitalization program that is going to help so many community groups in Cape Breton-Canso in terms of infrastructure dollars. And also the Fisher benefits that came out, the $500 million, that program, that framework came from our riding. It came from our riding. I think of the EI sick benefits going from 15 weeks to 26 weeks. We've played a role in that, but I can also say that I don't want to stop there. I want to get to 52. And also the great work we're doing with seniors groups throughout the riding and funding many different community seniors programming. And we have funded 75 and up for an increase in OAS. I was happy about that. But here is where my determination is unwavering. I will be focusing night and day on 65 to 74 for an increase. And I won't stop until we get it.
And so it should be.
Yeah. 100%.
It absolutely should be.
100%. Totally agree.
Yeah.
You know, I have my mom. I use my mom as a great example. My mom was a stay-home mom. She raised me. My father worked for DEFCO, and he worked in the mines. He was a mine rescue person, where I learned so much about teamwork from mine rescue men and their families. But my mother is 80 years of age, and when my father passed away suddenly in 2012, we saw what was a reduced amount for Dad's pension towards my mom. It was half a pension. My mother is an amazing woman. My mother has given back to her family. My mother has given back to her community. We can do better in terms of increasing benefits for seniors, and I'm so passionate about that. And we're going to get there. I promise you that we're going to get there.
Well, I can tell you, I think you're probably the busiest person out on the campaign trail. Well, from what I can see.
Well, I believe that it's important to knock on as many doors as possible, listen. I always believe in a campaign. And I believed in this when I helped all sorts of different candidates from all different parties before I jumped into to join the Liberal Party. I believe you go high. That what I mean by that is you treat people with respect. You do not make disparaging remarks or what I would say would be unethical remarks. You go high, others will go low. But if you go high, like Michelle Obama says,
yeah.
I think good things will happen. And listen, we need to have a debate on the issues. We need to have a debate on what the opportunities are. But my approach to politics is get your hands dirty. Be a part of the affordable housing discussion in your community and work with the groups that want affordable and accessible housing. Work with doctors. I can tell you, this hasn't stopped during my time as MP, but before I was MP, I would be working with different communities in the riding to work with them and local doctors to recruit doctors. And I continue to do that as MP. You know, I met some great doctors that are looking at Port Hawkesbury. I met great doctors that are looking at Glace Bay. I've met new doctors potentially that are looking at Arishat. And what I believe is that when the MP is there during those recruitment efforts, that just adds another element of why they need to choose Cape Breton-Canso. So for me, I love this. I have a passion for this. And it's not about me. It's about how do we grow together as a community? How do we make progress as a community? How do we solve some of the challenges bit by bit on healthcare? Healthcare is a provincial responsibility in terms of the administration side of it. We give the money, they administer it. But for anybody, any politician in any part of Canada to say that healthcare is not a federal issue is wrong. It's a community issue. It's a people issue. That's why I was really glad to see that huge announcement yesterday. But we can't stop there. We need to look at mental health funding to the provinces. We need to look at, and I'm so moved when Becky, when I was on the health committee, and I had a chance to see some of the documents that the public eventually saw around long-term health care in Ontario. And when the military went in, and there was a report done, and I was outraged, I was saddened, and I hurt for those folks that were living in conditions that nobody should live into. My approach has been, and working and advocating as a Atlantic Caucus chair, which I am, that we need long-term healthcare standards nationally, that every private and public long-term healthcare need to meet, and there also needs to be accountability embedded in those long-term healthcare standards. So for me, I'm the Atlantic chair for the Atlantic Caucus. I'm involved in the Seniors Caucus. I'm co-chair of the Not-for-Profit Caucus, Tourism Caucus. I think there's 3 or 4 others I'm a part of. And it's not to build a resume, because I'm 50. I'm soon to be 51. I want to get in the trenches. I want to be where decisions are made. Somebody did tell me about 5 months into being an MP, they said, there's somebody in Ottawa said, we have a nickname for you up here. I said, okay, what's that? They said, Bulldog. And I said, okay, explain to me, okay, that is a term of endearment, right? That's what I said to the person. They said, yeah. They said, you don't let go. Mm-hmm. You don't let go, whether it's funding opportunities, a constituent need, and that's why we're here. I'm in politics to do things, not to be someone. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fighter. Everybody knows that. But I'm a fighter that fights smart. The best boxers in the world are ones that know when to throw a punch and know when to take one. And for me, that's been my motto. I always believe that you need to be active, engaged, listening, act, engage, because that's the gig. This is a service job. This is an honor to be in this position. I'm humbled to be in this position. And again, I don't get everything right all the time, but I can tell you this, heart, soul, work ethic, and outcomes, that's what I'm about.
Well, so are the people of Cape Breton-Canso.
100%.
You just described Cape Breton-Canso.
100%. Resilient,
yep.
Strong,
innovative,
yep. Have acted in the face of adversity since the dawn of this community. I look at First Nations in our community. I look at the settlers that we are in this community. There is a buzz in this community of Cape Breton-Canso. I've seen more small businesses in the past 2 years than I did in the last 10. There's a reason for that. People that were from here want to come. Newcomers want to come here. Newcomers are here. People from Ontario, Quebec, during the COVID, when we were at the height of the COVID crisis, I can't tell you the amount of calls I've had from individuals saying, I want to go to Cape Breton and I want to start a business. And so I remember my first time in caucus. And you get up to the mic and you speak to the Prime Minister. And I said, first and foremost, Prime Minister, it's great to be here. I live in a riding called Cape Breton-Canso. It's Cape Breton Island and parts of northeastern Nova Scotia. In any magazine on any given day, that riding of Cape Breton-Canso is rated one of the top tourism spots in the country, in North America, and in the world. But we need world-class infrastructure. And what I was speaking to was cell phone connectivity and broadband. If people are going to come from Toronto and Vancouver to work here, to work remotely here, they need reliable internet. That's why in November, again, along with 10 other MPs, we pushed and put proposals together to increase funding to the provinces for broadband and cell phone coverage in the tune of $2 to $3 billion. And we're starting to see that find its way to Cape Breton-Canso. So let's build on that. Let's build on the opportunity. Let's look at those challenges, those issues head on.
Just like they always have.
Just like what I'm saying, you could easily say, take Mike Kelloway out of the sentence and put the community of Ayrshire.
Yeah, but we still need strong leadership, Mike.
You do.
You need a leader.
Yeah, you do.
You can have all the resilience in the world, and without a strong leader to speak for you, sometimes those words don't get spoken.
Well, this is it. I mean, you look at any definition of leadership, and leadership has many different definitions, in many different books. But leadership, really, for me, is about acting in the service of others, having the ability to persuade, having the ability to move things forward, having the ability to bring others on side that see the vision, see the opportunity. And to me, that's leadership. Leadership is about being bold at times. Leadership is about sometimes standing alone. Sometimes leadership is about voting against your own government, which I have done, because I believe that I'm here to represent Cape Breton-Canso, and sometimes you have to go against the tide. And for me, it's about servicing and servicing the people of Cape Breton-Canso. To be there for the people of Cape Breton-Canso. That's the only reason I'm here, is to be that person in Ottawa for Cape Breton-Canso and bring Cape Breton-Canso to Ottawa, to bring everything that you and I know and your viewers know.
And you've done a good job so far too, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Oh, listen, it's an honor, it's a privilege. Our work is not done, and I want to continue that work on all the levels that we talked about. And I believe that come Election Day and after Election Day, a vote for me is a vote for reaching our full potential. It's a vote for understanding that everything does start with community here, but you need a strong, strong voice in Ottawa. I've been that. In 1 year, I became the Atlantic Caucus Chair. I didn't ask for the position. People voted for me to be on it. But I think that's a reflection of not Mike Kelloway. I think that's a reflection of Cape Breton-Canso.
Yeah, because you represent us very well.
Well, thank you very much. I like to think so, and I'm very proud to be.
Well, good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Drop in and see us.
I would listen, Telile. I love Telile. I love our conversations, Becky. And I have to say this. Places like Telile, community organizations that tell the stories of communities that it services, and you guys service the entire world now, being online. These are organizations that we need to fund more. We need to have stories that are true, that are authentic, that showcase our great riding to the rest of the world.
You're absolutely right. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to my interview guests, Marty Hoover, Teresa Clements, and Paul Landry, as well as Mike Kelloway, and a big thank you to my Telile colleague, Becky Bourinot, for interviewing Mr. Kelloway. If you have any thoughts or feelings about what you've seen and heard over the past hour, or just some suggestions for future editions of Telile 24/7, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me directly. My phone number is 902-625-8863, and you can reach me by email using the address adamjrcook, cook with an E, @gmail.com. Don't forget you can contact Telile Community Television directly. The station phone number is 226-1928, and the best email address to use is info@telile.tv. Don't forget to follow Telile Community Television on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and our YouTube channel features every single edition of Telile 24/7, including this one, as well as our sister French language program Notre Côté, and the interviews that we're going to be doing with the candidates for the federal election in Cape Breton-Canso. And as well, if you'd like to hear the Telile 24/7 podcast, then be sure to check out our podcast channel, soundcloud.com/Telile. I'm Adam Cook. Thank you once again for tuning in to Telile 24/7. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now from Little Harbour, Richmond County.